Welcome back to Let's Play Darkest Dungeon. I'm your host, Timepants, and today we are resuming the endless run from, 3 months ago. I am sorry. I don't have any excuse. Work, getting ready for the baby, that whole thing, just kind of got away from me. But yeah, I was about to come back, record a new run, and as I was looking at my YouTube channel, I realized, oh my goodness, I did not actually finish doing the recordings and the commentary for the first endless run that we started. So cards on the table. I'm doing all of this in post. So yeah, I'm watching this along with you, and it's wow, what excellent play, what just adept mastery of this game's many nuances and systems. I didn't realize I was this good. No, but seriously, no, I'm not at all. Although I do think that I have at this point put enough time into Darkest Dungeon that, you know, it's kind of like learning a language, and you don't speak it for a couple years, you suddenly come back to it, and there's this sort of slow adjustment period, and then before you know it, it's you know, like you never stopped. So yeah, I think I'll always have a baseline of proficiency with Darkest Dungeon, and we will see, because this is the final video for my first endless run through the game, and next time we will come back with some fresh new content. Oh my goodness, I know I spoil you guys. Yeah, my one recording a season. So let's talk about the future, shall we? As I mentioned and then repeated and then went on about in great, perhaps needless detail in the last episodes of the Endless Run, my wife, as I said before, is pregnant, and we are going to be having our baby very soon, November 1st, and as I record this, it is, like October the 13th, so that's it's like 2.5 weeks away. We're gonna add a new character to the party. So that's very awesome. I'm very, very excited. We both are. I hope that he takes Rogue as the first class, you know, get those skill points while you can still get that first level bonus. But that's gonna change things a lot, I think. Obviously, I did say in a previous episode, but I'll just go ahead and reiterate. Once the baby is here, that is going to be the final death knell for the series. Not to put it in the most dour way possible, obviously, but yes, don't think of it as the end. Think of it as a new beginning, right? So you might also notice that my voice sounds terrible. I was sick recently, and allergies on top of that. So yeah, you're not getting my best time pants today. But other than that, I mean, I'm fine. Like I said, I'm not gonna make excuses. I'm not gonna be like, oh my God, you guys, I had rubella and scarlet fever. I had a touch of the consumption, and I put me out of commission for those 3 months. No, it's not like that, you know. Not time pants. I don't make excuses for my awful behavior. I have fully embraced that this is the best I'm probably ever gonna be, and I just have to live with everyone's disappointment. So where are we in this endless run? I do recall that the last video that we recorded was against the new boss, and I mean, clearly it went very well. Look at this party. Holy shit. Like, what, we're on wave 4 of the the endless run, still going strong, and I've got a good feeling about this. I imagine it's going to go on much longer than an additional 40 minutes. Just, given the quality of play that I'm clearly exhibiting, this, I would say, has a chance to go the distance, maybe at least to wave 10 beyond. Just to temper expectations when I get back, this and start recording, new stuff, like I said, very soon. They did patch the game because I guess some people were beating a little bit too much ass in endless mode, and the way that Red Hook described it, they said that was not the original intention for people to get like 14,000 kills, well, more like probably 3,000 kills in endless mode. It's supposed to be like a grueling, brutal affair, and yeah, people just really kind of figured it out. And this ended up being one of sort of the optimal party compositions that people settled on, that, sort of solved endless mode. I mean, obviously, you'll never beat it. It will eventually grind you down, or you'll get bored and leave. But yeah, I guess I can see that. I'm trying to remember now. The patch notes are probably getting on 2 months old themselves, but I think I remember Red Hook saying that they made, I think it's after a certain threshold. I think once you beat the crystal eyeball boss, the waves get a lot harder. So I think you'll recall when a wave starts, you get sort of this quick cutaway to the miller's mill, I guess, the miller's farmstead, and it's set against a colored backdrop, and depending on what color and adjective or noun or descriptor that flashes on the screen, that's the buff that those particular enemies for that wave are going to receive. So maybe it's like additional hit points or buffed damage, crit chance, blah blah blah. And I guess they have made those a lot harder, or maybe they've even started to make them stack. I don't recall. I'll brush up before I come back and start recording so I can speak with a little bit more authority and competency. First time for everything, right? But yeah, I would imagine that that's probably the end of the insane, like, multi-thousand kill endless run. So probably a net positive for the DLC as a whole. I don't think anybody truly enjoys playing endless to the point where, it's basically just rote. Execute this one strategy over and over again with minor variations based on the situation, but it's basically a solved problem. I think that's probably boring, right? So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people look at the new harder version of endless and say, oh, days gone by. I remember a time when you could just grind this game for half a day and never stop. I don't know why they changed it, but now it's ruined. I don't think that's the case. That seems like endless should not mean interminable. It should mean you can't beat it, right? So it does fit with the overall design philosophy that Red Hook described when the game first came out, And I really like this description. And I think that at its best, Darkest Dungeon is the perfect distillation of this design sensibility. They said that going through the dungeon should feel like a fighting retreat. And I believe that was sort of the justification that was given for making a lot of the game harder. Specifically, I think that was for the defense, or the justification given for putting corpses in the game, because AoE was super, 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 super powerful when the game first was in early access, to the point where you just would AoE the front ranks, start bringing the back rank enemies up into like first, second rank, where they couldn't really do their dangerous stuff, and it was basically a conveyor belt of death. But yeah, I like that. I like that description, a fighting retreat. So if endless mode feels like trivial, if it feels like it's something that is easily mastered or gamed or manipulated, it kind of loses that desperation that you're supposed to feel when you play Darkest Dungeon. Now, one thing that I didn't find out until after this recording, I guess there is no permadeath in endless mode. I was under the misguided assumption that you absolutely positively do not want anybody to die, and that's why they give you those disposable characters coming in the caravan. I guess that's not the case. So, not to spoil how things end on this run, but that is a uniquely kind way to handle Endless for Red Hook. It seems almost uncharacteristic, right? Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the weird one here. But I thought sort of the trick of Endless was hitting the eject button at the right time, so you don't end up getting a character killed while you're trying to get the Endless mode's resource. And yeah, it actually turns out that if somebody dies, you just lose them for, I forget if it's one week or if it's for like a random number of weeks. But I mean, that's probably a good thing. That probably enhances the overall replayability of the mode, especially if you get into Endless and you just friggin' love it. You don't have to really worry about, oh, somebody died, well, now I need to go grind up a new level 6 character before I even attempt this again. So that's probably a good thing. But especially with the, capital T, capital D, capital D, the Darkest Dungeon, having retreat penalized with the death of a character, like no ifs, ands, or buts, even if that's your last character, you can't retreat, they'll just die. So, yeah, kind of an interesting compromise by Red Hook, but probably for the game's benefit overall. What else? Give me a moment. Sorry, I'm just enjoying some of my tasty hold on, beverage here. Tank 7 at his Boulevard Tank 7 Farmhouse Ale. A fantastic vintage, but also very heady. Like, I took a sip and it immediately foamed up and overflowed and started spilling. So I'm just sitting here like a sloppy bastard watching myself play a video game from 3 months in the past. Holy shit, what has happened to my life? They are going to let me be responsible for a child. Can you believe that? So let's talk about that. At the risk of becoming that guy who's like, well, as a father, I think my opinion on the cap and trade policy, not like I'm under no delusions that being a parent or being about to be a parent uniquely qualifies me for anything other than a dependent on my tax return. Yeah. But I wanted to talk about something because, my wife and I have been doing these like childbirth classes, and the one that we did most recently was just holy shit. It got heavy, so where to start? How about the beginning, Timepants? Okay, so it was like a CPR class. So baby CPR, child CPR, and adult CPR, since that's sort of the basis for everything, and first aid and all that. That is just about the most morose, like upsetting fucking thing I have ever done in my life. Like, holy shit. So they are basically teaching you how to save a life, or at least try and preserve a life until help can arrive, in like the most horrible situation imaginable, and they're trying to simulate it as vividly as possible. So yeah, they have like a fake AED, like what is that, automated emergency defibrillator, and you practice like putting that on a dummy, and it's like charging, stand clear, shock needed, stand clear, and you're supposed to be like, all right, everybody stand back, I'm gonna give him a zap, and then you hit the button, and yeah, just they sort of walk you through this whole process, and I've taken classes like this before. I mentioned that I got like a master's in education back in like 2013, and part of that was like student teaching, and part of that was CPR training. And like I took swimming lessons growing up, so I have, this ain't my first rodeo. Basically, I have gone mouth to mouth with a lot of dummies. If you understand my shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have phrasing. But yeah, I've done CPR a lot on artificial people. However, starting in like with my first experience in 2013, when I was getting ready to do student teaching like at a high school, the CPR training was no longer practicing on an adult dummy. Now you're practicing with like babies and children dummies. And that, I don't know what it is, but to me, like there's this mental block where like you're looking at it and you're just like, holy shit, this represents somebody's, maybe my child whose heart has stopped. It just gets a little real, right? Like it gets a little bit heavy. And especially when we got to that chapter of like the Red Cross like handbook, there's a chapter that talks about like if they didn't make it, because basically it opens up by saying, okay, so you did CPR and you did the best that you could, but if you are in this situation, like to the point where a person needs CPR, it's pretty bad, right? So they might have died. And like the chapter goes on, and it's like, here's what you should do if you or somebody you know gave CPR to somebody and they died. Like, here's the warning signs of depression that you should start looking out for. And I'm just like, holy shit, I'm starting to get some warning signs of depression right now, because this just got a little too much. I'm gonna put the book down and go look out a window for about 4 hours. And yeah, like doing that again just is, it's very dark. It's like obviously a good skill to have. I'm not like an EMT or anything. I'm only just barely qualified to put my lips on somebody else. No, phrasing. But yeah, I have to say that sort of the adult heart to heart, like let's sit down, Junior, and talk about really what this CPR thing means. I was never quite ready for that. So this has taken a turn. This anecdote has gotten away from me. So we're gonna bring it back a little bit. So the other thing is, like, we went to a childbirth class for, oh good lord, what was it? Baby crying. Like, okay, so here's the thing. I don't know if I assume that I have lots of parents and like grandparents who watch my show. I do very well with the elderly demographic. Oh, that is good. Yeah, I'm very, very popular with the olds. So you probably have been through this before. But for those of you, who are just, maybe you're in school, maybe you're young adult, just getting started, out of college for the first time. Here's the thing, babies cry a lot, apparently. Like, I had heard the expression, like, a colicky baby before. I was like, I don't know what that is. That sounds like kind of a Little House on the Prairie disease, some Laura Ingalls Wilder shit. But no, apparently that just means they cry a lot and they won't stop. I had no idea. That's apparently, like, that's a medical thing. I just thought that was being very young. But no, so they're like, okay, here's how you burrito wrap your baby. And then, like, okay, so what you do is you're supposed to, like, wrap them up real tight in a little baby blanket so they can't move their arms or legs. And then you pick them up and you hold them like kind of like a football, like an American football, a rugby ball, for my European and Australian mates. Yeah, you hold them like a football, turn them sideways, and lean down and just, I'm sorry for doing this, but you go like shh, like really loud in their ear, like shh, and that's supposed to make them stop. Isn't that fucking crazy? Like, isn't that the most insane thing you've ever heard? Like, I would think that was an Upright Citizens Brigade bit, like sketch. You are telling me that actually works. That's fucked up. So I am really looking forward to this. Maybe you can hear the excitement in my voice, but I'm really, really stoked to be able to shush a baby and not get ugly looks from their parents. So, yeah, parenthood, right? I'm sure, like I said, you guys way ahead of me. Grandchildren. I'm not there yet, but that I know of. No. What is going on? See, this is why I have to do these runs live, and I shouldn't do commentary in post, clearly, because I need something to distract me from distracting myself, if that makes any sense. So where's this run at? It's really good. Like, actually, it has been long enough that I kind of forgot how well this went. And it's very disappointing when I think back to the runs that I did just sort of off camera subsequent to this. They didn't go this hot like at all. It was real bad. It was a nightmare, basically. But look at this party. It looks like we're never gonna lose again. How did that happen? Obviously, yeah, I kind of net decked this party. I'll admit I'm man enough to admit that I did not come up with this combination myself. After this run, I tried a couple of other compositions. I think it was Vestal, Jester, Plague Doctor, and Leper. And the idea was just beef up the Leper as much as humanly possible with the Plague Doctor and just let her rip, you know? That didn't work so well. If I remember right, we got to like wave 2 and shit went real bad. Like, it got so ugly we just had to bail. So I think that, yeah, where this all ended up, the meta, if you will, for Endless, I think this did end up being the ultimate supreme party, and it's hard to argue with this level of success. The Jester just being able to buff in perpetuity, it single-handedly justifies his inclusion in the party, right? Like, just being able to replenish these stacks and stacks of incredibly strong offensive and defensive buffs in the same skill over and over again, it's ridiculous. It's real good. The crit chance. Okay. I just jogged my own memory here. So I do remember that one of the nerfs that came in the recent patch, which was trying to modify sort of the balance of Endless mode, was an adjustment to crit chance. And I called it. Go back, check the tapes. I called this. They fairly substantially nerfed, I think, each individual character's like base crit chance, and then also the crit chance on certain items, crit chance on certain skills, crit chance, I think, applied by certain buffs. But long and the short of it is, crit is not nearly as prolific as it used to be. Now, I said this before, and I will stand by it. I don't think that crit was unbalanced in the state that the game released in. I don't think that there was anything necessarily wrong with crit being as probable as it ended up being. Okay, I'm starting to remember how this run failed. I remember now. But yeah, I think that was the mistake. I think I should have actually moved the Jester up to the front rank, used the Shield Breaker's skill to push her forward, and then moved the Leper or Vestal, whoever had the chance to go first, and I think that would have put everybody back pretty close to where they needed to be. So that was a mistake. But anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, I don't think that the adjustment to crit chance was necessarily needed to maintain the balance or the integrity of the game, but it was a little ridiculous, right? Like, it was just a little silly how high you could get some characters' crit chance. I think it was something like, good grief, like 80% or something like that. Maybe they even introduced a cap on what crit could even be. But yeah, that is a change that they ultimately decided to make for the betterment of the game. And I knew it was coming. For one thing, it's not the strength of crit attacks that's necessarily so overwhelming. Although, certainly doing 1.5 times damage is good. I mean, it can often swing the balance of combat into your favor just by itself if you hit the right enemy at the right time. But what is so powerful about crits, especially in endless mode, and this is something, again, I'm not smart or good or liked, but the thing about crits is all the ancillary benefits that a crit imparts. So, so the stress reduction in endless mode, that is an enormous benefit to crits that buffing like damage by itself does not give you. The ability to 60 to 80% of the time be able to attack and wipe out like 4 stress off of everybody in your party in one go, or at least have the chance to do that, that's enormous for just the long-term survivability of the run. Without that, you would have to rely on, you'd pretty much have to rely on curios in between combat, or I guess the other thing is you could use, stress reduction skills like the Jesters or the Houndmasters, but those come at a cost of another character's action, whereas, a crit, you get that in addition to that character's action, right? You can deal damage, potentially kill an enemy, and you get the stress heal on top of the 1.5 times damage multiplier. That's huge. On top of that, like, the ability to remove corpses, again, it's the economy of actions that you get out of that. There are other skills out there that remove corpses from the battlefield, but that using those skills comes at the cost of an action where you could be buffing or dealing damage, healing, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's the benefits that come with those crits that really made really made them sort of the prevailing and undisputed strategy for endless mode, and I can see why they would want to change that. In the base game, so say you're running through the Crimson Court because you hate yourself and you want to die, that actually wouldn't crop up at all. You'd still enjoy the passive stress relief, but because you're not in these interminable fights, you're not building up 20, 40, 50 crit chance bonus on your entire party, that you can just kind of have these big overwhelming turns one after the other. Those fights are either over in a couple of rounds, or you need the characters, many fights are not straightforward enough that you can just have one character do nothing but buff over and over again. Usually you'll need those turns for something else. So yeah, for the rest of the game, I don't think that crits or the crit meta that emerged was really all that unbalanced or even that strong. But yeah, for what it did for the new big gameplay mode, their centerpiece of the new DLC, I can see why they would want to tone it down, so people have to use a little bit more brain power when trying to figure out how they were going to approach the how to approach the endless mode. So that said, I guess we're getting near time here. Let's start talking about the future, shall we? So for my next run, I think, here's the thing. I am thinking about doing one more endless run, now secure in the knowledge that it probably won't drag on for like 4 hours, and if it does, that just confirms what I've always suspected, that I'm the best player at this game, and that's good, but it does make for a bit of a challenging recording session. Some alternatives. I could try and run at the new boss. I could return to one of our other play modes, knowing that probably I would not count on that going all the way to the final boss, given where we are in both of those. Or I could run parties that you request. I am open to lots of suggestions. So let me know if there's anything in particular that you would like to see, because I mean this is kind of the last march of Timepants. So let's make it a good one. I would like for it to be fun and entertaining for you, because I mean I will be entertained. I'm the one playing the game. So yeah, just let me know what you want to see. So one thing that I was thinking about for endless mode, I think I said this in a past episode. One of my favorite things about Darkest Dungeon and games like Darkest Dungeon, and I use the term broadly, games like Final Fantasy V or Final Fantasy Tactics, not Tactics Ogre, because that game is bad, and for whatever reason people don't notice that. So if you enjoyed it and I just kind of shook you, took you by the shoulders and shook you and like, this is what the real world is like, Tactics Ogre is bad. But the thing that I like about those games is that when you are not playing them, they're fun to think about, aren't they? Like putting together a hypothetical party in your head and being like, I wonder how these characters would work together. I wonder if this synergy is viable, or maybe it doesn't hold up in real combat because it takes too long, or it requires such a narrow set of circumstances as, not to be viable or repeatable. I love that. I absolutely love it. And one of the characters that has always kind of captured my imagination is the Hellion. I've always wanted to use one. I think they're pretty good, Hellions. I know, their HP total's a little bit low, but I think, damage output seems pretty high. I think they've got a fairly robust skill set. So, I'm kind of on the fence. But yeah, I think Hellions are really good. Now, it's actually Antiquarians. I think that class is super interesting. And one of the things that I was wondering with endless mode, or maybe just dungeon runs, whatever dungeon runs we settle upon for the next couple of runs here, I think the Antiquarian is super nifty. I love two reasons. I love the dodge. Like the big plus dodge plus speed full party buff is insane. There's gotta be a way to exploit that, right? So I want to include an antiquarian somewhere, but I help me out, because I mean, you're looking at this. I suck at this game. But like an antiquarian that, you know, buffs up the party with huge dodge chance, and then either has a Houndmaster or a man-at-arms guard them. Like, and we did this in our episode against the Volf, if you remember that, like 2 years ago. That party was 2 mans at arms and 2 antiquarians, and I mean, it was a slog, but it worked. And it did sort of fundamentally rely on that that synergy of dodge and protection, right? But that party seems a little bit too slow for something as brutal as like endless mode. It seems like most dungeons, especially like champion level dungeons, they could get overwhelmed because basically you just get whittled down. One of the problems with the antiquarian is you either get the dodge or you get the protection on one party member, or you get the healing. And let's say you have an antiquarian, you don't really want to add a Vestal to the party. You know, that makes the party pretty soft pretty quick. Although, what if you had a second rank Vestal with the Trinko that made them get the protection buff and also an enhancement to their heals, and you use that as like your contingency healing. And in second rank, the Vestal can do fairly decent-ish damage. That could work. Okay. All right, you're using the old noggin head. What else? Antiquarian and the Flagellant also seems like it could be a good synergy. So again, you use the full party dodge buff, or you use the protection and have the antiquarian guard for the Vestal. Okay, so now you still have the healing, because the Flagellant is going to take damage. I mean, he's covering 2 characters, he's going to get damage. Once his damage hits a certain threshold, he gets access to a big heal, and you use that as your sort of contingency healing, so that way the antiquarian never has to let her guard drop unless it's an absolute emergency. Okay. So let's use that as a baseline. Who would be good as a 3rd and 4th party member? I mean, Hellions good, but can we do better than that? Hellion Houndmaster would be good. Hellion Arbalist would be interesting, because then you kind of overcome one of the Flagellant's main problems, which is back row reach, and you have more emergency healing. Okay, I think we have a party. So next time, I think I am going to do one run at the new boss, and we are going to try that party out, because that sounds sick. I got myself fired up. What else? Oh, yes. New trinkets. I'm interested to try so many of these. So we will do that also very soon. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.